It's been a while, a couple of weeks at least since we put out any long form content. And my explanation there is I've been really sick over the holidays and I'm just finally getting over it, which is great because it happened just in time for me to do something I haven't done for several months, and that's playing the championship. I missed out on Fabled, so I didn't get my Maleficent. And to make matters worse, I did not make top eight in Reign of Jafar, so I missed out on that one as well. So I was anxious and ready to play for this season, and my goal was to make top eight to get that promo, that foil Daisy Duck, and I actually did quite a bit better than I hoped. So no, I'll break that down here, how I did and what I got. So starting off, I was playing Sapphire Steel. It's a deck that I really like, and I'll of course break down the deck. Of course, I'll break down the deck list a little bit later in the video. But I actually went to a local store called Shall We Play. We did 4 rounds for the 12 of us that were playing, and then cut the top four. Um, I went 3-1 in round robin play. So my first round, I went 2-0 against Amethyst Emerald. Round two, I went 2-1 against Blurple, and what really happened is that the first game I was on the play, but my deck bricked, and fortunately I was able to overcome that in game two and game three to win the match. Round three, I was up against Amethyst Steel. That was a real nail biter, but I managed to win that one 2-1 as well. The only round I dropped was against Amber Steel Aggro, which I'm not surprised by if I'm being honest. Um, my deck, Blue Steel's a little bit slower, and if I don't get the right cards, or if my opponent gets off to a really good start, which she did, I'm not gonna be able to compete with that, unfortunately. But 3-1 is great. It was I was the only undefeated player going into that fourth round, um, and it was obviously good enough for top cut. So first uh, cut the top four. I was up against Amethyst Ruby. I lost the first round, and I was on a play, so I was a little bit nervous, but I managed to win the next 2 rounds and come back into it. Then went into the championship with a player that I played against him before. He's really good, really nice guy. He was also playing Amethyst Ruby, and I won the first round on the draw, and then he managed to outmaneuver me the next 2 games. So he took home the championship mat. But what's nice is so if I'm being honest, I'm even more upset that the runner-up mat doesn't exist anymore. But I'll get over it because the store took care of us. So it was pack for win, and then some other goodies here and there. So what I picked up from my time in the so what I picked up from this, obviously, of course, I got the participation promo of Daisy Duck, and then I also got my foil Daisy Duck to go along with it, so it'll look really good along with my other set Champa promos. And since I got second place, I or and all, like I said, we got pack per win. Um, my last pack that I won for the top four cut, I actually pulled a Cinderella, which is really convenient because I needed four. My deck's only running three, and I couldn't find a fourth one, so now I've got it, and my deck can be that much stronger. Other things that I got in my goodie bag, I got a bunch of promos. Pull the Lever, which I do not have. Cloud Kicker, which I also don't have, and then Elsa and the Horseman Strike, which I got during Infinity Weekend. Um, Also picked up a Ariel sticker as a participation promo, and then I picked up the Honey Wizard sticker for the win, which I'm going to be fighting my son off for that one. And then I got the Spooky Sight lore counter, which I really love this art. And I also picked up a Mad Hatter pin, as well as the red Lorcana pin. So those will look great in my pin collection. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. I had a great time. Like I said, my I was playing Sapphire Steel, and it really performs very well. So let's go ahead and break down the deck, and we can talk about what works, what changes I might make, and I know there's still a couple weeks left of set champs, and so maybe this video will be of use to you, and if not, um, nothing's rotating, so I don't. unless something really wild comes out in Winter Spell, this deck will stay pretty strong moving forward. So this might be how I operate for the next couple of sets until the next rotation. So anyway, let's go ahead and break down the deck. This is the deck list that I took to set champs this weekend, and as I said, it performed very well. And in a field of 12, I took second. And if you've looked at a lot of blue steel decks, you probably have seen this archetype. You know it's here. If you really looked at it, there's not a ton of variation. So I don't want to spend too much time breaking down the minutia. I just want to point out some of the cards that I think work really well for me, and then point out some of the cards that I probably am going to change out for future. Highlight to start with is going to be Kita. She came in absolute clutch for me. Her ability to ramp me by exerting is great. Let me filter through a lot of stuff, but also that ward saved me a couple of times. There was a few games that I actually won because my opponent couldn't deal with Kita and her ward. Maybe I would have won those games if they removed Kita. Maybe I would have lost. It's hard to say, but I was able to win more efficiently with Kita because she's protected. I like Nimari when I remembered to do her draw and discard trigger. Fantastic. Goliath, of course, was great. Did exactly what I needed him to do. In fact, he turned the tide in my top 4 game. I was playing Amethyst Ruby, lost the first game. Second game, it was kind of up in the air. And then I was able to drop Goliath. And my opponent, on his next turn, had to go from 6 cards in hand down to 2 cards in hand. So up against Amethyst, Goliath pulled his weight and earned his dinner. Tinkerbell, of course, she's just a great card. Her ability to damage everything with 1 or put 1 damage on everything, fantastic. And she also forced my opponents to factor in her secondary ability, which is to deal 2 more damage to another character when she banishes something. So instead of my opponent being more free with their questing, they had to hold off a little bit. I'll point out Hades mostly because, yes, he's a great card. I mean, I love Hades, but I was also wearing my Lucky Hades shirt specifically because of this card. I also got the chance to sing Beyond the Horizon with Hades, which just was a really fun mental image. Arthur, King Victorious. This is probably the biggest surprise in my deck. Every time I played him, I had to explain what he did because he's just a niche card that doesn't see a lot of play. Gives a chosen character Challenger +2 and Resist +2, and lets that character challenge ready characters until the end of turn. It was great. Able to remove some threats on the board that weren't exerted, so pre-deal with them, so to speak. I will say I like having just 1 of Arthur because he's uninkable and it's not always going to be valuable, especially in that because if you look at my mana curve or my ink curve, it's really getting crowded there at those higher echelon at 7. Because I'm also running for Vincenzo Santorini, which is another great card. I like that they both have big bodies and big lore values. Fantastic. Transition from that to cards that I'll include cards that I think are on the bubble, but also cards that I just don't think worked. I don't like the Pleakley. I don't like Pleakley. I know I don't really have a turn 3 play without Pleakley, but ideally, I never have a turn where I just have 3 ink to play with. And what was really interesting is during my my top 4 match, I was shuffling my deck and I broke a sleeve, which happened to be for the Pleakley. And because this deck has 62 cards, I talked to my opponent and we agreed I just cut that out instead of resleeving the whole thing. And I was fine with that because, again, I'm just not a big fan of Pleakley. So I think I'm going to cut that one in the future. Pluto Steel Champion. This one's on the bubble. I like his ability. Whenever another Steel character banishes a character in a challenge, I gain 2 lore. He's also got a big body, so he can remove threats if need be. He's got 2 lore. The real reason why Pluto exists in this deck, though, is because of his ability to banish an item when I play another Steel character. He's there to deal with Emerald Chronicon. quite simply. Never saw one, so it wasn't a big problem. But what is nice about Pluto is he does force my opponents to factor him into their calculations, just like Tinkerbell. Two, I think, is the right number. I'm not entirely sure. That's where I'm gonna keep it though until I have more data. Um, Headless Horseman, I like this ability where you draw three, discard three at random, or everyone does that, and then you can put damage on something. I pulled it off, this trick off twice. It didn't really do anything because with how few actions I've got in this deck, I'm really relying on my opponent to take care of the rest, to do the heavy lifting, so to speak. And it really just didn't work out for me. So I think what I'll do is, what I would like to do is cut one of those Headless Horsemen. If you've been keeping track, that's 3 cards that I'd slot out because I think this deck's very strong. I like this deck. So slot out 2 Pleakleys and 1 Headless Horseman. And what I want to put in there is a 4th Cinderella, which the reason I've only got 3 is because I only had 3. So pulling that 4th Cinderella tonight out of a pack was phenomenal, so I can put 4 in there. So taking out 2 Pleakleys, removing 1 Headless Horseman, adding a Cinderella puts me at 60 cards and 15 Uninkables, which I think is the right number for this deck. I'm a little uncomfortable with how high the ink curve is. There's a lot of high value cards in here, not a lot of low to the ground turn 1, turn 2 plays, but it really, the deck for the most part, unless it gets totally bricked, which did happen to me a couple times, so that it's going to happen with every deck. It functions pretty well, and it can draw cards decently, we'll say. So this is it for me for Set Champs season. I usually am one and done, just because of timing and having so many kids and whatnot. So we'll see where this deck goes in the next meta when Winterspell gets spoiled and released. I really think this deck is going to stick around. I wish I'd brought a version of this to CCQ Las Vegas back in November, and I think this might be the just like Ruby Sapphire was the horse I rode during the previous rotation. I think this is the one I'm going to keep on until the next rotation when we lose about half of this deck. Feel free to use this deck or any of the others. Hopefully you have as much success or even greater success than I did in your own set championships. And good luck for the rest of the season.